Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. I'm your host, Ed, dive deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, and share. But to get into the first segment, tips update, not much winning going on in Akron as the women's lacrosse team just lost their last game. They did go 1-1 this past week. They beat Kent State 10-6. Got really relaxed in that second half. So that said, I think all of Kent State's points came in that second half in that lacrosse game. Got really relaxed. Was lucky they were ahead in that first half, and they scored most of their points there. And they did score a little bit in the. They scored like half. They had five at halftime, I think. So they got outscored by one in that second half. We got lucky that Kent State didn't do anything in that first half. As Sienna Hitchcliffe and Heather Carey both had 3 goals in that game. Then they lost the other day. I think it was yesterday, or not one yesterday. It was Saturday, I think. It was Saturday. They lost to San Diego State, 14-13. And San Diego State has struggled all year. They just improved to 2-7 on the season. But Sienna Hitchcliffe, she had another great game. And now she got the most goals in Akron history. So that's cool. What's good, Hockey Town? So yeah, that Sienna Hitchcock, like I said, she finished the game with 4 goals, 1 assist. So she had another solid game. But Molly Jacobson, she had 4 goals, and Kiera Dole had 6 goals for San Diego State. Who, like I said, they only had one win up to that point. They were 1-7, but they dominated this game, and then not dominated, but it was a back and forth game, and they ended up winning surprisingly. San Diego State, they improved to 2-7 on the season now as far as lacrosse goes. So, and then for the women's basketball team, they had a girl transfer, which I don't really get why. Izzy Callaway, she entered the transfer portal. She played in all 31 games this season, as Akron's women's team was 7-24 in the season, so it wasn't good at all. It wasn't able to make the MAC tournament. But Izzy Callaway, she started in 3 of those 31 games. She averaged 7.9 points per game, 1.9 rebounds per game, 1.1 assists per game. Shot 42.9% from the field, 39.8% from three, 75% from the free throw line. She entered the transfer portal because I guess she wants to win, but it isn't any team. Like, she's not going to go to some bigger market. Like, she's not going to get offered some crazy NIL money. And a lot of college athletes enter that portal and get stuck because then teams don't pick them up because they're seeking other players and look for other players. Like, she'd be valuable to a couple of teams because she is a good 3-point shooter, shooting 39% from three. But we've only seen that for one season, so how long can that last? Because in her first college season, she only played one game, and I don't even know the context behind that. But this is even her sophomore season. This one she actually got playing time, and she was solid. She's giving you 8 points and 2 rebounds, and she can shoot the ball. But how many teams? But she's not giving you anything else aside from that shooting. Aside from shooting nearly 40% of three, is anything else? It's not much else that she does necessarily. So her entering the portal, it's like she wants to win. She'll get picked up by a school that just needs somebody to shoot. She can go to a better school, I'm sure. Not saying she'll go here, but for an example, Howard, who they just made the tournament, even as a smaller market, they still made the tournament, and that was like a 16, I think, got eliminated first round. But I'm sure they'll love to have somebody shooting 40% from three. But she'll win some games. She'll be able to compete in March Madness depending on where she goes. But it won't be. I don't think it's such a significant move. It's not a crazy loss for Akron either. It's like the team was 7-24, so people was bound to leave. There might be more people that enter the portal in the future, but this women's team, they've just been struggling the last few years, so that's not a surprise. So Akron losing somebody, it's like you did go 7-24. You can't recruit. You have no playmakers on the team because she definitely wasn't giving Akron that. What Akron desperately needs as a playmaker. Now, losing a 40% 3-point shooter does suck. It would have been nice to keep her, but it's like we need playmaking, need some type of playmaking because they really didn't have a good playmaker on the team throughout the season. But that's what they really need. going into next season. So I'm sure they'll find it at some point. Then meanwhile, for the men's basketball team, they weren't March Madness they just won the MAC's third straight year, if I'm not mistaken, because I know they won the MAC tournament 3 straight years, and I'm pretty sure that's an automatic bid to March Madness. So I don't know if this. I know it was in the tournament last year and lost early, I think. But this year in the tournament, once again, lost in round of 64 versus Texas Tech, in a game where Akron just got dominated. The first half was close. Akron was only down 5. Texas Tech, their defense was playing better than their offense. They still had the lead, so it was pretty much on par. But their defense did look better than their offense by halftime, and still were just up by 5. Then the offense stepped up in the second half, dropping 51 points in the second half, 11 more than they had in the first half of 40 points, finishing that game, winning 51. In the text, that wouldn't make sense. 91 to 71. Okay. I put 71 to 51 for some reason. But no, Texas Tech won 91 to 71. So the offense was a lot better in that second half. But for Akron, Amani Lyles, he was great with 26 points, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds. Would like to see him get more rebounds than 3, especially as a big man. That was my only gripe with him. He had the defense, he had the steals, the blocks, but just 3 rebounds. And the most important game of the season as a big man. Not great, but he did shoot the ball well, 8 of 14 from the field, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. Didn't make too many of his threes, but everywhere else he was pretty solid, just aside from the rebounding. Davari Johnson, who's been our second best player, struggled heavily with 4 points and 3 turnovers while shooting 2 of 10 from the field, and he didn't take any threes either. So he shot 20% from the field. Then Sharon Young off the bench, 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3 with just 4 points. Shamad Sky came off the bench and played, and his scoring was solid with 20 points, but he did commit 3 turnovers and just 1 assist. And as a team, Akron shot 5 of 19 from 3 and had just 12 assists to their team's 9 turnovers. So they barely had more assists than they had turnovers in this game. Meanwhile, for Texas Tech, they had 5 players score 10 plus points. As Jalen Petty was their best player, dropping 24 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, while shooting 9 of 14 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, and 1 of 2 from the free throw line. And Texas Tech as a team shot 11 of 20 from 3, which is 55%, had 19 blocks, and like I said, 51 points in the second half. A lot of these March Madness games have came down to who was shooting better from 3. And it's not just, take 3 attempts, you shoot 66%. I know teams that has taken at least 10 threes and making, not even 10. When teams have taken around 13 to 14 threes or more, a lot of them teams that are shooting really well, like 46%, 50%, like those teams are winning those games. And it's like it's almost impossible to lose a game when you shoot that well from 3. And that's what the case was for Texas Tech. They shot 55% from 3 in that game, so there's really no way they could have lost. And they had 19 blocks. I think they had 5 team steals. So like I said, Texas Tech, their defense played great. Akron wasn't able to force many turnovers. They forced a few in the first half, but they didn't force nearly as many in the second half. So that also played a factor in them. The defense just not doing enough. 11 or 20 from 3, like that's insane. Like I feel like I've seen Steph shoot 23s in a game and not make that many. So actually, he probably's done that multiple times. So that's not even a surprise. The surprise is Texas Tech shooting that well from 3, shooting 55% from 3 and winning. So congratulations to Texas Tech. I think he got eliminated after that, though. I forget who they lose. Yeah, they lost to Alabama. I didn't see that game. And they ended up losing after that. I wonder what they shot from 3 in that game. Because then that's going to be I just want to see that real quick. Then I'll move to the next segment. They shot 16% from 3 in the Alabama game. And Alabama shot 45% on 42 attempts. That's hella funny. I just wanted to see. I mean, they still be Akron, so it's what it is. But with that being said, the PBA Indiana Classic. Um, that was this was a weird tournament. And PBA Professional Bowling Association. It's some PBA basketball league in some random country. I have no idea what that's about. But this I'm covering the Professional Bowling Association. But the P the PBA Indiana Classic was a really weird one. It started with EJ Tackett and Ryan Barnes facing off. Now Ryan Barnes, he struggled early. This was his first time being in the top five for a tournament this year. So obviously they had qualifying rounds before each tournament to determine who was going to be part of the step ladder. And this was Ryan Barnes' first time qualifying for a TV event this year, which is surprising because he had an insane rookie year last year. So I'm surprised it took him this long. It's like we're 3 or 4 tournaments in. So taking him, I mean, that's still not a lot, but I would expect him to be on one of the earlier ones. I would expect him to be on been in a couple of tournaments at this point. But here he is now with taking on EJ Tackett and Ryan Barnes. He struggled early. He just didn't seem focused throughout the game. Them early struggles ended up costing him late, even though he still kept it close. He didn't let it affect him too bad. But if you don't get a 9-pin in one of those earlier frames, he probably wins this game and has a chance to beat Timmy 10 and advance the same way that EJ Tackett did. But EJ Tackett, he held on. He still won 244 to 236. So it wasn't like a blowout or nothing crazy. But EJ Tackett, Ryan Barnes, he kept it close even though he just didn't seem focused, which was unfortunate. So I'm sure he'll be back here. He'll be on TV again at some point this season. But he just didn't seem focused in this game versus EJ Tackett. EJ Tackett took advantage of that. He had EJ Tackett advancing to the next matchup, taking on Timmy 10, who I just mentioned, and already spoiled that. EJ Tackett won, but both guys struggled out the gate. It started both guys struggling, had really bad games, and this wasn't even the worst game of the 4, because the championship game was somehow worse and lower scoring. But it was still a close game. It was still close. It wasn't like it was a blowout, so it still came down to the final few frames and what can be done. But EJ Tackett, he ended up winning this one. He saved himself because he had like 3 straight strikes in a row out of those 10 frames. But that was those 3 straight strikes that helped EJ Tackett win and get ahead. So they helped him get ahead, and he stayed on pace, stayed on track throughout the game, and did his thing. So he ended up winning that one 202 to 197 with Timmy 10 selling late in the game. So yeah, Timmy 10 still had a good enough performance to potentially win it. He just didn't do enough to win it. So he was really close. So I do got to give him credit because this was the closest matchup being decided by just 5 points. So Timmy 10 did have a chance to win it. Like I said, both guys struggled. I don't even know if it was a focus thing. Like they seemed focused. It was just some bad curves here and there. And then one of them had to break away at some point and have a really good stretch, which EJ Tackett, he was the one that had that. He just needed that once in this game. And EJ Tackett had that really good stretch that was able to win him the game to advance to now the third matchup that he would be going into. Now in this matchup, you got EJ Tackett taking on Marshall Kent. Marshall Kent, I think it's been in a couple of tournaments. Obviously, all these guys have been in multiple tournaments, but I'm talking about the TV side of it when they're in the step ladder for the final 5 to decide who's going to be moving up, because obviously they had a qualifying rounds before, like I said. But Marshall Kent, it was nice to see him. This was a great start. This is probably the best matchup. It wasn't the closest, but this was the best. Like the previous 2 were closer, but this one was the best one because of the intensity with it starting 9 straight strikes between both guys. And then it was EJ who made the first mistake. It was frame 5 for him. But yeah, it was his 5th frame because I was thinking, oh, can we get 10 straight strikes in a row? But no, he messed up on that one. He got a 9-pin spear. Then ironically, they had back-to-back 9-pin spears. So after he had that 9-pin, Marshall Kent did the same thing, having a 9-pin spear. Then it was late in the game. It was a really bad hook for EJ Tackett. as he got a 6-pin late into the game. Now he has 4 pins left, and he has to split, and he has to get all 4 of them somehow. Which bowlers are able to do this, like professional bowlers, they're professionals for a reason. So they're able to get that split where it's like 2 pins right here. Then you got the other 2 pins like right here, and then that split is right in the middle between my hands. So EJ wasn't able to get that. He tried, but he only got 2 pins. He only got 2 of the 4 remaining pins. So that ended up costing him late. And then obviously him not getting that strike in the 5th frame was a big mistake. But that mistake was, I guess it was reversed with Marshall Kent or deflected with Marshall Kent doing the same thing. So now that put EJ back into the game where he has a really good chance to take advantage and get ahead. But that 6-pin late really cost him with that not getting the perfect hook on that. That was super unfortunate. Now, then you get to the finals with Marshall Kent and David Kroll, who I haven't seen David Kroll all season. He's been in the qualifying tournaments, but he just hasn't been good enough to get on TV. So he was finally on TV, finally on the CW for the first time. And it just wasn't it. This was a struggle fest. This was the lowest scoring out of all the games. Both guys went under 200. I was like, man, are these guys going to struggle the entire time? Because that's what it was like. It was just a struggle fest between the both of them. Like nobody did nothing significant. Marshall Kent did enough to stay ahead. Marshall Kent would end up winning 152 to 136, and then after that, it was revealed that this was the lowest scoring title match in PBA Tour history. Both guys sucked. Marshall Kent just sucked less in the game. That what it came down to. So Marshall Kent had back-to-back wins, clutched up when it mattered most versus EJ Tackett. Had a hot start there, and then he won. He just sucked less in the finals versus David Kroll to not sell it. But EJ Tackett was really EJ Tackett was the only not only, I mean, he had the best, he competed the longest because EJ Tackett was in matches. He was in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd matchup, as Marshall Kent was in the 3rd and 4th matchup. So that was great from EJ Tackett. So EJ Tackett had a good performance throughout. He had a chance to win it. I think EJ Tackett would have beat David Kroll too, but that 6-pin really cost him in the end. So that was super unfortunate for EJ Tackett because I think he had a good chance of winning this if he doesn't get that 6-pin when he did. Because it was like the 8th frame, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. Said not a sports question, but you should watch Invincible. It's a great show. I'll see what it's about. Instead of soccer, the only main sport you don't cover. Yeah, kind of. I haven't got into it really. I cover it sometimes for college. I cover college soccer a little bit. I don't do it a lot though. But yeah. All right. A hot take of the week. This hot take of the week is from Hockey Town. Javon Evans will be treated like Kofi Kingston. Okay. I think I've seen a lot of people say this, and I think I get why people make the comparison because they kind of got that same build when Kofi made his debut when Javon Evans coming up on the main roster now. I agree, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because Kofi Kingston has still had a Hall of Fame career. Like he's been a mid-card champion multiple times, winning the IC US titles, part of one of the greatest tag team / factions of all time, won the WWE championship. I think Javon could be exactly like that, and that's not a problem. Because at the end of the day, it's always going to be you're always going to get compared to somebody. And if Javon is always compared to Kofi, it is what it is. But I think Javon Evans is going to be a really good mid-card guy because not everybody can be. I think when he gets some more muscle, he can be in the main event more. But I think he can win the world title more than Kofi, ironically. Because I think Javon Evans, he's going to be one of the best mid-card guys of all time. He's electric in ring. The promos, his promos isn't the best. It's just very natural, which is what I like to see. It's very natural. It's like he's doing He's over with the kids right now for that school, and he's an actual baby face. It's not like he's over off of a catchphrase. Like he's over by just being himself. So that's dope for him. So I think he'd be like a two-time world champion. Like Kofi, he only won it once, and I think he would have had a chance to win it in 2009, and when Randy called him stupid. So if he don't botch that, maybe Randy doesn't get mad, and maybe Kofi gets to push in. But that did pay off for Kofi and Randy's feud eventually that they had. And so I think Javon, he'll win a couple of world championships. I see him winning two, but if he wins more, then I'll be fun. I'll be happy with that too. But Javon Evans being Kofi Kingston took him, like I could see him being a Kofi Kingston. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He might get a push faster than Kofi. I could see that. Like he might win the world title before, because it took Kofi hella long to win it after that mistake in '09. So if he don't do anything like that, he do got to slow down a little bit, because the match with Bryson Waller last night, that was a really good match between them. It was a great for both sides. Javon Evans was doing his thing. Waller slowing down, tried to slow down their momentum, but he just wasn't, and Waller just couldn't keep up with him. He just wasn't fast enough. Then Javon, he just got to slow down. He did this one dive before he hit his head, so he was just running pure off of adrenaline. And he did the move again on the other side of the ring and perfected it. So he can do the move. He just got to slow down, because when he slowed down and did the same move on the other side, he didn't hit his head. He hit Waller as he should have. When he did it the first time, he really didn't hit Waller. He mainly hit his head going over Waller. He overshot him. But the second time he did it, that looked perfectly fine. Like that looked great. And so Javon Evans, he's great. And then for Grayson Waller, that furthered the story of him and Kofi Kingston and them, and Waller asking Kofi for help. Then Javon Evans taking advantage of that. Also really good ring psychology by Javon to not just let them talk and take it and not get distracted by Kofi. Javon never got distracted by Kofi Kingston being out there, as we've seen with Sami Zayn just being distracted from Trick being outside. Like Javon didn't let Kofi being out there distract him. Kofi didn't interfere. He told Waller, "You got to win on your own." That's how we did it. Even though we heels now, you still got to win on your own. So we can't forget what the New Days did and what Kofi did in the past. So you advance two stories with this, because you got the realism of Kofi wanting Waller to win, but him trying to teach Waller that he got to do it on his own, that he can't just help him get every win. Like he'll help him here and there. He might cheat, might use some underhanded tactics, but you can't win like that every single time. And so then you got the other side of it. And Javon Evans, he's picking up these big wins and these really good matches versus the Americanos, versus Kofi, versus Waller last night. These is in the triple threat with Dominic being in the elimination chamber. So these are the good wins that he has that he can acknowledge when he goes after the IC title, if he does. If you do an IC title match with Penta, Dragon Lee, Javon Evans, and you got to throw a heel in there so you can have, or throw Kofi in there too, so that way you can have a heel in that match as well. So then Kofi can get on the Mania card, and you can have, because you can't just do a fatal four-way with four faces. It's got to be a few, because I think Dragon Lee, he'll get another shot. Then Javon Evans did pin Dominic, and then Kofi, he hasn't done nothing. Him and Javon, he might try to teach him a lesson in that match, but out of respect, not even out of a hatred of a heel thing. So I think you can run that fatal four-way at WrestleMania for the IC title. Like we had the fatal four-way last year. You can do it again, but it'll be different than what we've seen, because it'll just be Penta that was in the fatal four-way from last year. So yeah, Evans called out Penta for the IC title last night. It must have been during the ad, because I didn't see that. But yeah, before the hot take for this week, Kofi Kingston or Javon Evans will be treated like Kofi Kingston. Like I said, I agree with it, and I don't think him being the next Kofi Kingston is a bad thing. So, yep. Just said it was during a commercial break. That makes sense. Makes sense why I didn't see it. So it probably will be a fatal four-way. All right. With that being said, I can lead right into the Raw recap for this week. A slight step down for last week. I give it a 6 out of 10. I think it shows. I think the start to the show was good. Paul Heyman calling overhype. I think that's a great way to get heat. Like it's a basic promo, but it's something that's gonna make the fans mad. It's something that's gonna get the fans on and on. So him saying that Oba is overhyped, this and that, it's like in a kayfabe sense, he kind of has a point because Oba hasn't beat anybody of significance aside from Rusev, technically based off build, but Rusev, he ain't really. Rusev is a glorified jobber at this point. So Paul calling him overhyped, then Obafemi coming out there and manhandling Brock again. It's like, okay, I'm overhyped, but I just handled Brock back-to-back weeks. So who's telling it? So are you really right about me being overhyped? So that's I, I do think Oba should have cut a promo. Hopefully he does next week because his promo needs to be explaining why he's going after Brock. Is it that you want to be the next beast or whatever? Is it do you just want to take him down to prove like what is this? Like why do you want to face Brock out of all people? Did Seth make the call? Did Seth want you to do this? Like did Seth play a factor? Because you had Seth out there last week before Oba came out. So just a promo to explain why he is going after Brock would be nice so we can make sense of what's going on in the storyline because he hasn't because I will say they won, even though Oba took down Brock, Oba won the exchange last week, but this week I give it to Paul based off the fact that he called them overhyped and the fans, you can't really say anything to prove otherwise. Because when they showed the graphic, it's like Brock, former UFC champion, former world heavyweight champion, beat Undertaker, beat Bobby, beat Ambrose, etc., etc. at WrestleMania. Meanwhile, Oba's accomplishments is all in NXT, and all these guys we know Brock would just beat with ease. So it's like that. I like that promo from Paul Heyman. Had the Usos taking on the Vision, a match that ended in a DQ with the faces getting DQ'd. That's weird. So I do think the Usos will be turning at some point. I think the Vision is a winning next week. Now this tag match felt weird. I don't know why, but then you had LA Knight come out there when they introduced the brass knuckles, which don't make sense because it's still 2-on-2. Even if you get weapons involved, it's still a 2-on-2 match. So LA Knight, that's evening up the odds for the baby faces. Now the faces had the advantage first division, which I think sometimes the faces have the numbers in it's cool, but you can't do that all the like this was a random match to do it in because this match had actual stakes because we knew that if division win that they were gonna get a tag match, a tag title match. And then Jay just blatantly hit Theory with the brass knuckles. He looked at the ref and still did it anyways. There's no like the signs can be more clear that the Usos and Roman are all turning heel and we're getting the OG bloodline back. Even though I think them coming back as faces would have been cooler, but that's insane. Like he blatantly looked at the ref. The ref is telling him, Jay, don't do this. He ignored him. He looked at him. He was like, I'm still doing this. So I'm like, okay, you got it. So then that lead to Paul Heyman, then LA Knight and the Usos get into it. So now we probably get Jay versus LA Knight, which is weird and random. And then Paul Heyman, he was like, he went up to Adam Pearce. He was like, tag title match for my boys in a street fight. And I'm like, okay, deservingly so, because Division One, they got laid out with brass knuckles, both of them. So they should get a title match because they won via DQ. And so Paul Heyman been cooking all night up to this point until I'll get to the other stuff with Paul in a second. But Paul Heyman so far has been cooking at this point in the show. LA Knight. Oh, I already mentioned LA Knight. Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch and AJ Lee. This was their best exchange with each other. This was their best back and forth, in my opinion. And they've had multiple, and this is including matches too, promos. But this is their best exchange because I think both of them had valid points to what they were saying. Because Becky was like, I think her line, she was like, the last time that you had a WrestleMania match, you turned in your resignation letter the next day. And it's been a decade since that. And then AJ was like, apparently I'm your child's favorite wrestler too. Because Becky did acknowledge that her daughter likes AJ Lee's theme song. And so now, I don't know why you admit that. That was a dumb idea. But then Becky's still running. It's like, why should I throw hands with you? I should wait until the match. And plus, and so this is their best exchange to me. I think the second match would be better than the first one. I do think it has. I did think Natty and Maxine would be involved, but don't seem like they will be. So I think doing an elimination chamber was kind of stupid because you could have just let Becky keep it because I don't like, why make Becky a 3-time champion? I just don't see it. Like, I don't see Becky getting the IC title for a third time when you just introduced the title last year. Yeah, you just introduced the title last year, so she's gonna be a 3-time champion in a year and a half span of the championship. That's not a good idea to me. And I love Becky, but that's really weird. Then you had Paul Heyman and it said a submission match. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought Becky was gonna make it a submission match, but Becky doing that wouldn't make sense since she tapped 3 times. And so AJ Lee, she gonna have to be the one to say, "Oh, it's a submission match." So AJ Lee, she got to make it a submission match to where and make it a point to where Becky can't back out of it. Whether she declined, then she can't get the match. That's how you do that. Then you have Paul Heyman calling out Seth. Told him last minute that he has a restraining order. You're not supposed to tell Seth Rollins supposed to be warned ahead of time that he has a restraining order. Now we knew he would have violated it, but you can't tell him that as soon as he gets in your vicinity. He's supposed to already know that. So that angle is really stupid and didn't make sense. That's not how a restraining order works. You can't fool me. I know how this works. I took law classes in high school. You can't just tell a person right there, "Oh, I have a restraining order against you." No, that's not how that works. They're supposed to know ahead of time. They're supposed to be either emailed or called and let know that they have a restraining order, that Paul has a restraining order against Seth. You can't just tell him once he gets in that vicinity, because now you're arresting him for no reason. And then Paul starts talking about how Becky is going to divorce him, how Roxy's going to be in CPS, and that's when Seth crashes out and ran to knock out Paul Heyman. And then the cops arrest him. Then Adam Pearce, he don't know nothing about the restraining order either. So as the boss, Adam Pearce is also supposed to know that one of his workers has a restraining order against another worker. So I'm so confused. Then he mentioned how Braun Breaker and Bryson Reed aren't close to returning. I thought one of them was going to come back just because he said that. But if that's actually true and they're not close to returning, why not do Seth versus Paul Heyman in a match? Even if it's going to be a squash match, we know Seth is going to win. Why have Paul Heyman get a bit of offense and try to fight back? But you're doing this for no reason. Because what is Seth going to do if Braun Breaker isn't cleared? You might as well add him to the match with Roman and CM Punk. He never got his rematch for the title. I don't think Gunther ever got his rematch for the title either. So you really could have made it a fatal 4-way. Or if you do Gunther and Seth make the number one contenders match, because neither one got their rematch for the world title after they lost it. So I know you can't pencil them in now, but think about that. Neither one of them have gotten their rematch yet. This is why I'm glad that TNA and AEW still do rematch clauses. And once you lose the title, you shouldn't just be out the title picture. You should get your rematch. Even if you are injured, once you come back, you should be getting your rematch. Or you could pivot to somebody else in the group getting the match for the title for you. So, like the Vision taking out Seth Rollins once Seth was injured. Why not have Braun just take the title? You could have did that instead of having a tournament or whatever to determine the next champion. So, that was... And then you had said Seth was going through a terrible match. I think it'll be a good match. I just don't know who will be the... Well, no, that'll be a good match. It'll actually be better than the career killer thing that Gunther is doing. I think that'll be a fun match. Asuka. Oh yeah, I talked about I made a short about the tag match with the Kabuki Warriors. Asuka blaming Kairi Sane, so that's further in developing their story. Asuka blaming Kairi Sane for the loss, and Io Sky trying to talk to her. So yeah, the story wouldn't make sense, but the match would be fun. But yeah, Io trying to talk to Kairi Sane, then Asuka screaming for her. So that triple threat match has to happen. Whether it be at Mania or the Raw before Mania or on the Mania pre-show, well, that won't happen. But whenever that triple threat happens, you have whoever wins it has to be one of the faces. It has to, Because I think once Asuka turns, Kyrie will be a face. So either Io or Kyrie Sane has to win to set up a match between, assuming that Becky wins. If Becky wins the match, then you got to let Kyrie Sane win that and be the new number one contender for the IC title. But if AJ Lee is still champion for whatever reason, Asuka should win it. That way you have a heel facing a face AJ Lee, and Asuka could potentially win it off of AJ Lee. And so it really depends. So you make a triple threat match. It also depends on the result of the Becky versus AJ match. So that's what I say. Go triple threat. Now Io and Raquel, they're gonna have a match next week. That's not surprising. Raquel questioning why Io got involved in her match is really stupid to me. When Liv literally cost when she got involved in Io's match in a gala match versus Raquel. Even though I think Io still won, Raquel took her out after the match, and Io got pinned immediately after. So Raquel questioning Io for getting involved don't really make sense. But I'm glad they got a match next week, so that's gonna be a good match. Io will probably get they Io might win, but I hope WWE shocks us and lets Raquel get the win next week over Io, because maybe Asuka interferes too. So yeah, let Raquel get the win versus Io next week. AJ not going to be here. She's part-time. That's why she's champ right now to get a win in. And I've had part-time champions in the past. So and then you had Stephanie Valkyrie attacking Liv Morgan. That was a great beatdown. That was a great segment. I really enjoyed that. I had no problem with that. It was cool to me. So like Stephanie and Liv, they didn't have the promos. They didn't have the backstage vignettes. So them just brawling, going at it, throwing each other. I'm like fine with it. I go to face, so she shouldn't attack her from behind. I mean, it's weeks of build up, so it has to be something more to add to the story. And so I enjoy what they did with this. This has been probably the best story going into WrestleMania. I know a lot of people don't like it because Raquel should have beat Stephanie, which I agree with. But we can't continue looking at the past. Stephanie is still the champion, and we got to move forward. So Stephanie and Liv, that was cool. Yeah, a great beatdown. I think Stephanie won that too. Yeah, was she getting held back first? Yeah, she was. Okay. Yeah. Penta retains the IC title versus Dominic, but it just furthers the story of Finn Balor versus Dom. The match was cool. I know Dom was supposed to get his rematch last week, but he had a concussion from following the Vikingo match. And concussion protocol usually is 1 to 2 weeks. For him, it was just one. So thank God for that. That's nothing serious again. So Dominic got his rematch, which is why I question why doesn't every champion get their rematch? If you have Dom gets an automatic rematch, exception being inserted into the main event of WrestleMania with Roman and Punk, because he never got his rematch for the title. If the Usos lose to the division next week, they should get their rematch at some point. Even if both teams end up being heel, the Usos will still be the former champions. But I don't get how that works. Like Ilya got his rematch like 3 times, and he been lost the belt. But it was a good match. But it was mainly just to further the story of Dominic and Finn Balor, because Finn Balor's music hit when JD McDonough was going to get involved. So Finn and JD, they threw hands with each other. And then you had Penta roll up Dom to retain. So now Penta beat Dom twice. And you got Finn attacking Dominic after the match. So it is what it is. It's cool. Like, I get they further the story. But, I guess. And then he lost clean last time, too. Yeah, Penta beat Finn clean. So this time the finish was still clean. It just had a few distractions. So adding these distractions to end this match was cool. But yeah, I give Raw 6 out of 10. I think it's a slight step down from last week. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best either. But the last 2 weeks, I think Raw had been pretty good. But this week took a slight step down from both of those shows. But it was still some stuff that was like really enjoyable. A few things, not so much. But it was an all right episode of Raw. Nothing special. I think my favorite thing is Paul Heyman calling over hype. based off of what we've seen so far. Not that I agree with that, but in kayfabe, he does have a point to what he was saying. Now to the injury report. It's for the injury report. Rey Mysterio is out for WrestleMania, most likely with a rib injury. Now, no clashing. So I think Rey Mysterio wanted to retire this year at WrestleMania, but he might be retiring at Clash of Italy in May. I don't know if Gunther is going to be his last match. I prefer Dominic retire Rey. I think Rey wants to retire to his son. I just think it makes the most sense. So I don't think Gunther retiring him would make sense. I say let his son retire him, or if you don't want to do that, if you want Rey wants another luchador to retire him, either Dragon Lee or Penta will be a good choice because there's no more Rey Mysterio clones. I feel like it's like these luchadors have separated themselves. So Penta and Rey have a match just out of respect. Rey picks his retirement match and he wants Penta to be his last match in WWE for the IC title. He could win the IC title and retire on the same day and just relinquish it. Like that's a possibility. Like we could see, like even Sting, we've seen him retain the tag titles in his last match. So I think with Rey, once he returns, he got to have a match against either Dominic or Penta. That's, in my opinion, those are the two that make the most sense to me for his last WWE match. Gunther needs a WrestleMania match. You can't retire 3 legends and not have a match. That don't make sense. Toni Storm is rumored to be out for a year. I don't know. She was written off of Dynamite last Wednesday. So I don't know if that's injury or if she's pregnant, because if a woman is out for a year, out of nowhere, she's usually pregnant. So I can't confirm if Toni Storm is pregnant, but I also can't confirm if it's an injury. So we'll have to see. You got to stay updated on that. I'm hoping for the best, hoping it is a pregnancy and not an injury, because a year-end injury that'll keep her out for a year, that's actually scary, because that year could become a year and a half real quick. So hoping for the best, hoping that her being out for a year is due to pregnancy. So we'll see where that goes. Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks. He currently has a back injury. He's starting the pitcher. So it's going, and the season starts tomorrow. So it's going to be a rough month, I think. Well, it'll be like a rough week or two, so he can come back a bit later. But so he'll miss like the first week or two. Won't be nothing crazy. But the earliest he can return is April 7th. But the Diamondbacks missing their starting pitcher to start the season. Not great. Juju Watkins, I could have been put her on the injury report. She's been out all year. But I just wanted to mention her since the women's college basketball season is almost over. She got injured in last year's tournament and has missed this entire she tore her ACL, and she missed this entire season. Even with USC still being in March Madness, she hasn't played. She probably could have came back. She just decided to sit the whole year, including the playoffs, and she'll come back fully healed for next year. And she's going to have a fantastic season. Can't wait to see her return for that team. And I think they win the national championship once she does come back. Brett Pessis for the Devils. He got a lower body injury. They're claiming that he's done for the regular season. I think the New Jersey Devils are in the NHL playoff hunt. I'm going to fact check that to make sure, because I don't want to be wrong about that. But if he can, he might be able to come back for the playoffs, though, which would be good for them. But the Devils, the Devils, they're in the East. So the East is uber competitive, where almost anybody can make the playoffs. So the next couple of weeks is going to be insane for the NHL in the East, because the Florida Panthers, who won back-to-back cups, might not make the playoffs. Like, it's really insane how loaded the East is, and only 2 teams are getting wild card spots, and they might not get that spot. So we'll see how that plays out, but the Devils are definitely going to miss him. Meanwhile, the Canadians, they're currently 3rd in the Atlantic, so they'll be in the playoffs if it ended today. But they're missing Kirby Datch, who has an upper body injury, so he's going to be out for the next 1 to 3 weeks. He's already 3rd. He was out for 2 to 4 weeks last week, He's already served one of those weeks, so now it's 1-3. So I don't know why I said served, but I couldn't think any better way to word that. So we'll see what happens to him and the Canadians overall. So hopefully he can get back in that week. But if he's out for 3 weeks, then that's going to be nearly the end of the season. Jared Allen for the Cavaliers, he's out with a knee injury. He could return as early as tomorrow versus the Heat. So hopefully, and he's been out for a few games at this point. So I don't think the Cavs need. Well, obviously the Cavs at full strength, you're gonna need him because he's playing well. He's playing good basketball. But I think the Cavs will be better off trading him and getting some pieces to put around Mitchell, Harden, and Mobley and making Mobley the full-time center. But this season, obviously, trade deadline is open. You can't do that. So you are missing Jared Allen, who's giving you good defense, who can take the pressure off of Evan Mobley a little bit. You can get him back tomorrow versus the Heat, who's been cold on his cold stretch. They've lost 5 straight games. Then that'll be a good time to get him back and try to get him back into that lineup. Moses Moody for the Warriors, he suffered a horrific leg injury last night and was stretchered off the court, so that was super unfortunate. I don't know if I think his leg gave out when he was going for a dunk, so that was super scary to see. Prayers up to him. I still don't know what the injury is being classified as. It might be a broken leg, but that was a tough watch. I've seen it twice. Now I don't plan on seeing that again. So yeah. Blake Mueller for the Indy Ignite in the MLB. And Lydia Martin for the Indy Ignite in the MLB. They're both out with injuries for the All-Star game. So they've both been replaced, which I'll mention in my last segment when I talk about the All-Stars and how perfect the rosters nearly were. But those two being out and not being able to play in the All-Star game this year, that sucks for them. That's super unfortunate. So prayers up to them, wishing the best for them health-wise. And then you said but he can't retire anyone at Mania, so what can he do? Because if he fights Seth, that's terrible because Seth has to win. Paul Heyman could call in a favor from Gunther. I don't know why, but the story is Paul Heyman calling in a favor from Gunther because he doesn't have anybody else that can deal with Seth, and he knows that Gunther is a career killer. And he obviously knows Seth isn't going to retire, but he just wants Gunther to beat him up so badly that he can't compete for the next couple of months. And then once Seth comes back, whoever you can run Seth and Gunther in the King of the Ring tournament in the first round, because you're going to do the King of the Ring and you probably going to put big names in there. So then that's how you lead to a rematch. You don't got to retire anybody at Mania. He was supposed to retire Rey Mysterio, but if he's hurt, it's nobody else for him to retire at this point. So do him and Seth, but Paul Heyman calls in a favor from Gunther to have him take care of Seth, because the division is probably going to have to worry about Tom Brady and Gronk. I think they'll have that celeb match. I think it's going to be 2 celeb matches. I think that one I'm actually looking forward to seeing. Jelly Roll get the other celeb match for reasons. And then Brock is taken care of. He got to face Oba. So then you got Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. It's like nothing for them to do. I mean, they're injured, so they can't do anything. But then if you don't do, yes. So Seth and Gunther might have to be the route, unless you add both of them to the world title match and make it a fatal 4-way, since neither one of them got their rematch. Or you could just do Seth and Gunther and make it a number 1 contenders match. Neither got their rematch. The winner gets their rematch at Backlash. The loser can't challenge. I mean, the loser just lose. I don't feel like I had more to it. But yeah, make that a number 1 contenders match in my books. But yeah, Rey Mysterio, him being out, I think he plans on retiring soon anyway. So you can tell that the age is catching up to him. So yeah. You can definitely tell that the age is caught up to Rey Mysterio. That's wishing him. Yeah. But yeah, that's for the injury report. Those are the significant injuries for this week. Anything that I didn't mention, I probably covered already or forgot, because I only do 10 spots for the injury report because I don't want to make it super long. But yeah, prayers up to everybody on the injury report. Like I said, for Tony Storm, Don't know if it's an injury or a pregnancy, but when a woman is out for up to a year, she's usually pregnant. So hopefully that's the case, because I don't want to see that be an injury, because that would not be good. But now let's move on to are we buying this? Will Bryson DeChambeau break Joaquin Neiman's record for the most LIV golf tournament wins in a single season? You'll see it in the title. You see it in the banner below. Let's first to mention what Joaquin Neiman did last year was special, as he set the record for most LIV golf tournament wins with 4. He had a phenomenal year. I think he was one of my athletes. I think he was my athlete of the year for 2025. Excuse me. For how consistent he was, how poised he was throughout the season, and getting to all these tournaments, being competitive, and a lot of them having multiple top 5, top 10 finishes, and winning 4 tournaments. Sadly, nobody else was able to match him. Nobody else can match what he did last season. So now this year, you got Bryson DeChambeau, who's already won 2 tournaments so far out of like 4 or 5, which have been played so far. So out of the 5 tournaments, he's won 2 out of the 5. So he's won 40% of the tournaments this year. And then you still got 9 tournaments left this year. It's 9 more tournaments to go. And then just to talk about the LIV Golf South Africa real quick, and talk about that, because that was insane. That event was intense, because you had the stuff you had in LIV Golf South Africa. You had Joaquin Neiman still doing his thing. He had a swing out of the pit that went straight to the hole. So that was an insane shot. That was a really good swing. Had Jon Rahm throughout this. He was a bit too aggressive on some of his swings, especially early on in the game. Like Jon Rahm, I feel like he could play better than this. I just think he was too aggressive on a few of his swings. Bryson DeChambeau, he continued to hold on to the gap. Like, he was ahead by a significant margin, especially that's round 3. I gotta count rounds 2 and 1, because round 1 that was in round 1, yeah, I still. Oh yeah, okay, I got it now. Not to talk about the whole event and get to Bryson DeChambeau in a minute, but after round 1, you had an amazing first swing by DeChambeau. Lewis, he was at the +2 early. Lewis double O, what I call him, because I can't pronounce his last name. He was at a +2, so he was struggling early on. Ortiz was solid from the jump. You had Ortiz was solid from the jump, but he was still like 15th place. So despite a really good start, he was still hella low, which was surprising. 15 isn't crazy low, because you can move on from that. But then you got a great swing, great stuff by Brandon Grace, who I don't know much of. So I don't know if it was his debut or just my first time seeing him. But Brandon Grace played really well. Had like 5 other teams in double digits early on. Westwood was in the top 10, that was a great sight to see. So after round 1, Bryson DeChambeau and Charles Howell, they both had a -8. They're the highest scorers up to that point. So, and that's really impressive after one day to be at a -8. And then you have Sergio Garcia at a -7, Brandon Grace, Jon Rahm, and Tyler Gooch all at a -6. So they was all doing their thing. They was all going crazy in that. And then you get to round 2. Bryson DeChambeau, he stays in second place. I mean, he stays in first place after that. So he had a -6 in day 2. So that was even more. So that was not as impressive as day 1, but he stepped up and could stay ahead and got ahead by 2 this time, as David Pugh moved up, and he was tied with Brandon Grace at a -12, while Jon Rahm and Abraham Answer both had a -11. So they didn't get. So then you're seeing the top 5 take up a little bit. So then you get to round 3, and this is where you have Bryson DeChambeau. He's the only one at a -20 or more. He's got a -21. He's doing his thing. Brandon Grace to move up to second at a -19. Jon Rahm is back at a -18. Abraham Answer at a -18. Then you got Thomas Detfree, David Pugh, and then Burmester all at a -17. So this is already one of the best LIV golf tournaments of all time, with how amazing these guys have played. Like, the electricity in this game, with how crazy it was. It was -15 was the lowest score of the top 10. most of the time, that minus 15 is the highest score for a lot of tournaments. A minus 15 can usually win you a tournament. Joaquin even was in 13th place out of minus 14, which is something that's super rare and unusual. But that was impressive. And like I said, DeChambeau, he was at the minus of 21 to end it. So now you're getting uh, into the end of it. So Grace win by Grace later on in that round 4. Rahm, he still isn't putting now Rahm, he's not putting enough of John Rahm, just not enough aggression on some of his shots, which is unfortunate because he's playing really well. At first he was too aggressive, then the aggression calmed down. So they ultimately ended up costing him. And then the top but that didn't cost him. At that point he had got back up. He finished second. So it didn't cost him it did cost him a bit because if he puts more aggression on a couple of the swings he had, then he doesn't go into the playoff fold because it was Thomas Detry was in third at a minus 23, Brandon Grace fourth and minus 23, Abraham Answer fifth minus 23. So they were tied between 3 and 5. So then the top two is Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm at a minus 26. They go into the playoff folds because I think John Rahm could have won it if he was a little bit more aggressive in this round 4. The Bryson DeChambeau won it with the minus 26. He had one less hole, got in a one less hole, and still ended up winning. And so Bryson DeChambeau, he ended up winning this one with the minus 26, finishing in first, and John Rahm at the minus 26, finishing in second. So now, and this is back-to-back tournaments, by the way. It's not just, one here, one there. Like Bryson DeChambeau has now won back-to-back tournaments. In Singapore, won into a playoff hole versus Richard T. Lee. Won that one. He had got the ball in 4 swings. Got the ball in the hole in 4 swings as Richard T. Lee. It took him 5 swings to get the ball in the hole. So that allowed Bryson DeChambeau to win LIV Golf Singapore. Then in South Africa, just a couple of days ago, he had the same situation. It took him 3 swings to get into the hole, while it took John Rahm 4 swings to get into the hole. So then he still went out of minus 26. So now he's won back-to-back tournaments, and both came down to the playoff hole. So it came to extra swings to determine, who should win this game? Who's going to win the tournament? And Bryson DeChambeau won both. So out of the next 9 tournaments, can he win 3 more? I think it's realistic. Joaquin Neiman won 4 last year, and I don't even think he was on a pace this insane. So Bryson DeChambeau, he's already won 2 out of 5. That's 40%. So can he win 33% of the next tournaments that he's in? I believe so. I think he can do it. I think the hype with Bryson DeChambeau, you got to buy it because this isn't just luck. When you get into playoff holes, that's who's the best of the best. So I do think John Rahm could have won. I do think he has a chance to win it. Richard T. Lee, I was surprised more about Richard T. Lee being in the playoff holes because I thought that Bryson would have won that one easily, but I do think John Rahm could have easily won this, but he didn't. So he didn't. He can't live in hypotheticals, can't live in the past. Bryson DeChambeau still got the win. So that was, yeah. So can he win 3 tournaments out of the next 9 to end the year? But there's 9 more tournaments to end the year. And he might, I think he'll compete in all of them. Like, I think it's very, very realistic. Like, can he repeat? Can we see a guy repeat for the first time in LIV Golf? I don't think we're seeing a guy win 3 straight tournaments in a row in LIV Golf history. I can't be wrong. I can look that up real quick. I am looking it up to make sure. No, I was wrong. And Dustin Johnson did do it in 2022, which was the first season of LIV Golf. Dustin Johnson won 3 straight LIV Golf tournaments. And so Bryson DeChambeau has a chance to do something that we haven't seen since 2022. And he has a chance to break a record that was set last year. So he could be doing 2 different things at once. So Bryson DeChambeau, keep doing your thing because you're having a phenomenal season already. Joaquin Neiman was my top golfer of 2025. So Joaquin, you got a bit of catching up to do, not having the same season you had last year. But now Joaquin Neiman has still been really solid. Didn't finish top 5, but he was still in the top 10. Like I said, LIV Golf South Africa is one of the best LIV Golf tournaments of all time. That was insane. And now since I'm on spring break for this week, adding an extra 10 minutes to both podcast episodes today and Thursday, adding an extra segment at the end. So this is just for this week since I'm on spring break, since I got a lot more time on my hands. The MLB All-Star rosters were nearly perfect. Now let's talk about the rosters and where the rosters were nearly perfect. You had Team Lottery, you had Iko Jones from the Vibe. That's a good pick. That was expected. Had Regan Pittman Nelson from the Fury. A bit surprised just because of how, but she has been the Fury. Actually, she's been really good for the Fury. That's not crazy. Had Mimi Collier from the Dallas Pulse. Well deserved. She's an MVP candidate. Been the best player and been a top 3, top 5 player this season. Paige Briggs, Romaine from the Rise. That's a good pick. I like that. I think she's well deserving of being here. Morgan Hintz from the Rise, making it well. Makes sense. Lydia Martin from the Ignite got a few players. The end of Ignite had Lydia Martin, Zana Tiller, and Mia Tunigan. Tuiga? Yeah, Tuiga. Mia was the only one that I was surprised by Ignite. Not saying that she shouldn't have made it, but I didn't think that she would. That was a bit of a surprise to me. And as we get further down, there's a few other people I think were big surprises to me that made it, or even bigger surprises than she was. So she's not a crazy pick. I was just a bit surprised. Had Brooke Nunnegover from the Supernovas. That makes sense. Still an MVP candidate despite the Supernova struggles this season, just being a mediocre team. She's still been really good for them. Cass Brown from the Valkyries. I guess. I'm really surprised by that. The Trumpo Gurpod from the Valkyries as well. That's not surprising. I kind of expect her to be here. Sheer Venegas from the Mojo. Maybe I just need to watch the Mojo more, but I haven't heard her name much, so I can't. But yeah. And then it was an injury, like I said, to Lydia Martin. Lydia Martin is one of the injuries. She was replaced by Natalie Foster. I thought she should have been on here anyways. Like the last 3 women I named, she could have been in over Kaz around Trumpo Gurpart or Sarah Venegas. They should have been the replacements, honestly. But now with adding her, I think that makes it perfect, to be honest. So maybe this segment won't be 10 minutes, but I did just add extra time. Since I'm on spring break, it is extra time. It might or might not be 10 whole minutes. We'll see. But yeah, Natalie Foster, one of the replacements for the injured Lydia Martin. And then for Team Mesquite, got Leah Edmond from the Vibe having an MVP level season. Raina Terry from the Fury. She's been our best player this season, so that's not a surprise. Sophie Malonda Diaz, her and Mimi Kohler have been a dynamic duo from the Post, but they had to separate them for the All-Star game, I guess. Well, they didn't have to. That's just how to cook the crumble. Natalie Valentine Anderson from the Post and Lane Van Buskirk from the Post. And both of them made it, so that's not surprising. The Post, one of the top teams, so them and the India Ignite having the most All-Stars isn't a surprise to me. And so shout out to them. Blake Mueller from the Ignite, she made it to the All-Star team as well. She got replaced by Abby Walker from the Fury. Now, I would have been mad at this at first, but with the injury, somebody had to replace her, so I'm not mad at Abby Walker making it. It's just, man, I think it just sucks that Blake Mueller got injured and isn't able to compete. So Lydia Martin and Blake Mueller, the India Ignite teammates that were separated for this game, so they can't be and can't compete due to injuries. But I think they picked the right replacements for them. Elena Scott from the Ignite, she also made it. A really good pick. I like that. Emily Londot, she's been solid for the Supernovas. she made it. Not a surprise there. Trinity Looper and Teodora Plutska, both from the Orlando Valkyries. Despite how mid they've been, also it's just 18s in the MLB. So obviously these teams is all gonna have, for the most part, they're all gonna have multiple women make it. But yeah, that's not those picks are solid picks. So I like those. Maureen Gorte from the Mojo, that was a surprise. But Marley Monterey making it, that was a really good pick as well. The reason why I say nearly perfect is because the replacements made up for the mistakes that they made. Like the replacement should never be to make up for what mistakes he made in picking these all stars. I think Abby Walker, I think, is a questionable all-star replacement. I feel like it's somebody else that could have got in over her, but it is what it is. I'm just not saying that she's terrible. I just don't. I'm just very surprised by her being in that position. I don't. Maybe it's me. I feel like breathing. Like it's a few women I'm looking at, and it's like, man, even though they're rookies, I feel like they still could have made it and been a replacement, or at least made it up with some of these other players. Like, um, um, like I said, Natalie Foster and Lydia Martin should have both been on the team, but Foster replaced Lydia Martin, so that's what it is. But like I would have put Natalie Foster in over Kaz Brown from the Valkyries. I think Bree Kelly, she had a really good argument. Bree Kelly, I think, had a solid argument to make it over a Martin Gorte in this case. I'm trying to see who else, because there's a few other women I think could have been in here. Kiera Reinhardt, I feel like could have made it over Champo Gerpod. So it's just a few. So it's not like nothing crazy. It's just about like two or three I think should have been replacements or would have been better replacements or better people to be in here, being the All-Star game. That's why I say nearly perfect. Like it's not nothing to harp on it too bad. Like it's like two or three people that would have made a difference. That's why I say nearly perfect. But yeah, that's for the extra time. And said, who do I think gonna win more world titles? I think Javon gonna win more than Melo, but we'll see. The YSL titles for 196. Oh man, that's wonderful. Yeah, they should have never got them. They're a supernatural gimmick, so I don't get why they had to have the. They should have never had the tag titles. Like they should just be having non-title feuds. Some people are just meant for. Oh yeah, school has been good. Thanks, Hockey Town. But yeah, with that being said, yeah, that's everything for today. Make sure you leave a like if you haven't. Comment on the video. Comment on the live if you're watching the playback. That's yeah. Subscribe if you're new. Share for others to see as well. So that being said, peace out. Yeah, like you see on the banner, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Peace.